the first lady, Genevieve, and that's because she's so good at what she does and she's very professional. And she's a pioneer. She's kind of taking this whole thing to the next level. So yeah. And then for the newer guys, Eferele and Ini, I combined the two. I just like them. I like their movies too. That's all. My daily routine and what makes Toby Bakre Toby Bakre. You see, I wake up in the morning. First of all, I pray. When you're thankful for the little things. I mean, just wake up with a heart of gratitude. Like, thank God for life, for the little things. And then after that, I play some music. Get into the day already, like fast, bumpy music. So I'm getting into the shower. I'm already moving. Plan out my day, do some exercise. And so when I step out of the house, man, I'm already the vibe is up there, so nothing can bring me down for the day. So going like that, and it's almost gonna be a good day. Like you see, right now I just have like great vibes. In my head, I'm still playing the song I woke up to. It's all good. All right, thank you very much, guys. Signing out.
Many thanks for joining us. You're watching Plus TV Africa. This is News on the Hour, and I am Felicity Ezewike. Wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, has faulted the social investment program of the federal government, saying the program has failed to achieve its aim in Kano State and most parts of northern Nigeria. Mrs. Buhari mentioned this during an interactive session with women as part of the presidential inauguration ceremony at the State House in Abuja. The wife of the president, who specifically mentioned the conditional cash transfer component, questioned the method used in executing the program. She also faulted the amount of money spent on the purchase of mosquito nets. Mrs. Buhari said, and I quote, "They have spent $16 million buying mosquito nets. I did not get it, but maybe some people have gotten it. I didn't get it. But I feel that that's my personal opinion. $16 million is enough to fumigate Nigeria." End of quote. INEC on Saturday declared the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP in Zamfara State, Bello Matawale, and others, the winners of the 2019 general elections in the state after the Supreme Court judgment. Chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, at a press conference in Abuja, said the governor-elect, deputy governor-elect, and National Assembly members-elect will receive their certificates of return on Monday. According to him, the State House of Assembly members-elect will receive theirs from the resident electoral commissioner in the state in Gusau on Friday. Yakubu said, and I quote, "Following the judgment of the Supreme Court, the commissioners met in 2 emergency sessions and taking briefings from our lawyers and staff on the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment, while the legislative elections, senatorial, House of Representatives and State House of Assembly elections are straightforward to deal with because they entail first past the post or simple majority of votes. The governorship election is determined not just by majority votes, but also spread in accordance with Section 179, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The All Progressive Congress APC has called an emergency meeting of its National Working Committee to discuss the Supreme Court judgment on the contentious Zamfara State elections in Abuja on Monday. According to sources, the national chairman of the APC, Adams Oshomole, would preside over the meeting. However, it is not clear if the party would sanction some of its members whose actions cost the APC what a national officer of the party described as a monumental loss. National Publicity Secretary of the party, Lanre Sao Nilu, confirmed Monday's meeting, declined comment on the likely punishment for the members who worked against their party in Zamfara State. He, however, said the party would make its stand known on the Supreme Court ruling after the meeting. Away from that, the senior pastor of Trinity House Church in Lagos, Ituai Godalo, has emphasized that all money given to God in the context of paying tithe is still redistributed for the benefits of the people. While speaking exclusively with Plus TV Africa on a special program, One on One, the popular preacher and social reformer shed light on the concept and proper use of tithes.
from a spiritual perspective is for you who have received from God to acknowledge God first as your source and to give a part of that money to God. It's an acknowledgement that this came from God and I give to God, okay? And God said 10%, starting from the order of Melchizedek, that Abraham gave a tithe of all that he had gotten. What is the use of the tithe? The use of the tithe is to support people who focus their lives on spiritual things and spiritual infrastructure, okay? So the tithe was set aside for a group of people in Israel in those days called the Levites, a certain family who chose to concentrate their efforts to looking after the temple, to ministering in songs, to praying, to interceding, to carrying the ark of God, so that every other Jew, the remaining 11 tribes, could focus on agriculture, farming, fishing, cattle rearing, and war. Some people needed to continually talk to God and make sure that everybody else was all right. So they didn't have any means of livelihood, as it were. So God commanded that you pay a tithe to give to the priests and the Levites so that they themselves could eat, could drink, could wear clothes, and could focus on the things of God. So that's basically where the tithe goes to. A tithe also goes to the widow, the orphan, the poor, the weak, the infirm, so that by God's grace, there will be no poor people in Israel. And it's very, very simple, okay? I think the criticism or the controversy is really more to do with the use of the tithe.
I was just about to ask you that question.
Yeah, rather than the essence of paying tithes. Unfortunately, some of us as pastors, we've become a little bit flamboyant. We've become a bit excessive. Huge church buildings, long convoys, different kinds of garments, private planes, and so on and so forth. So people are getting a bit worried that is this what this is meant for, okay? And that's where I think that's the underpinning of this controversy, and not the fact that the tithe should be paid. The tithe should be paid. And if you don't want to pay a tithe, you need to pay something to wherever you think you are getting your spiritual nourishment from. If you want to do a tithe, no problem. If you want to do more than a tithe, no problem. If you want to do less than a tithe, no problem. The issue is that God sees your heart and sees your response to the things of God.
Ighodalo also talked about the role of the church in tackling poverty.
Most churches are doing some level of welfare. Whether they're doing enough, I do not know. I don't have the statistics. But most churches do some level of welfare. Some churches are forgotten, to be honest, and the focus more is on the pastor, the pastorate, the affluent, the style, and all that. But a church, to be a real church, must deal with the issues of its people. The very first church in Acts chapter 2, chapter 3, the Bible says that everybody sold what they had and brought it to the apostles' feet, such that the apostles gave back to different people. And the end result was that there was none that had more than enough and none that...
The plight of Nigerian doctors, most especially the ones attached to public or government hospitals, have been of serious concern in recent times. The national president of NMA, Dr. Francis Faduyile, recently lamented at a shortage of personnel and the failure of state government to open secondary healthcare centers, employ more doctors and pay them living wage. The NMA president also regretted that efforts to engage state government on the plight of doctors have not succeeded. To provide a better explanation on this, Folajimi Adebowale, a public health practitioner, now joins us in the studio. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you, Felicity. It's a pleasure being here.
Your reaction to this consistent concern about the shortage of medical personnel, as well as nurses, and the salary structure, as it were, how would you react?
Well, we have a problem that is common to third world countries where skilled laborers, especially in the healthcare sector, migrate away to get better pay elsewhere. If this issue has to be tackled, then we need to talk about the economy at large, because doctors alone would not be singled out of the whole system to be paid a better wage. There will be a domino effect. The doctors will ask for more, the nurses will ask for more. And if you talk about doctors in the government sector, what about those in the private sector also? So what we have is a very huge problem, and I don't see any shortcut to tackling this problem unless the economy actually improves.
Well, what do you make of the continuous comparison between state-owned hospitals and private hospitals? People seem, it's the operative word, to prefer private hospital. Why do you think this is so?
I did a Vox Pop recently, and 90% of the people that responded to that same question actually said private hospital. The problem is this, and I can even tell you from practice that in private practice, when it gets to a case and you feel that, oh, this case is too technical, I need to refer this person to a government hospital, the patient will literally tell you that they don't want to go. Do you understand? It's a nightmare sometimes going to a government hospital. People can leave as early as 5 a.m. in the morning, and they may not come back till 5, 6 p.m. in the evening. So no, when even for the doctors also, it's a lot of stress, especially in big hospitals. The setting doesn't give room for a good experience of care for the patient. So it's always frightful. It's what people may wonder. Some people may say, okay, it might be cheaper, but at some point people don't really care about the cost, because the emotional trauma they go through when you are in a system in which you have to go and pay money in the north, collect receipt in the east, get the drugs in the west to go and give the doctors in the south, and you have to walk a long distance around. It's like nobody cares per se. People feel lost. People always want to find someone they know in that system that they can attach to have a minimum set of belongings, so that they know that, oh, the person we brought here is being cared for. So it's an experience nobody actually really wants to go. People eventually just succumb to going to it eventually when they have no other option.
You mentioned earlier about people, doctors leaving the shores to look for better opportunities, and Saudi Arabia seemed to be the destination of some of our medical doctors and personnel. What do you think they're doing differently that we're not?
The pay is better, the economy is better. People go to Canada, people go to USA, people go to Europe, to UK, people go to Australia, people go to Saudi Arabia, to Oman, another country, even South Africa. The pay is better. Now, on the other aspect, it doesn't mean that some doctors can't do well in this part of the world also, when you set up your own practice and you work within your means. But you see, doctors are not wired to be entrepreneurial. Doctors are not wired to set up hospitals. Doctors are wired more or less to collect salaries, so they actually follow that salary. Do you get my point? And it's not so good, because sometimes in this sector, you need to be entrepreneurial to actually do well as a person in the healthcare field. And even those that actually travel, it's only for a while. Because for after 10, 15, 20 years in service over there, it's not really anymore about the money. They want a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose, and they don't have it there. So they just resort to the fact that, oh, I'm still in this country because of my kids and stuff like that. They really want to come back to the country and see how they can do to improve the system and have a sense of fulfillment in their career. So it's not, the primary reason why people just go is a means of survival, to provide themselves the basic needs of food, shelter, and clothing, and actually have a respectable means of livelihood. In
recent times, we've seen strong protest in the media by doctors. The most recent, I think, is from Lute, where they went out, Lasut rather, where they went out to say they need better pay, they need more doctors to help with the workload and all of that. What, in your opinion, can government do to address the situation, especially with doctors and medical personnel in this country?
Now, first of all, the government actually has to pay more attention to health. Health is very key. And the minimum amount, I think, stipulated by WHO about the budget, I'm not sure about the exact figure, they're not paying attention to it in this part of the world. Lasut for a while has not, I stand to be corrected, they've not even employed new doctors for a while. Healthcare is expensive anywhere in the world. It's a big budget project for any government. And if a government really doesn't personally feel that they have a strong role or a strong duty to the people to provide good health care, it becomes a problem. It goes underfunded. Another problem we do have is actually about the doctors themselves. The running of the hospital, the running of the government hospitals is not done in best practice of business. Okay, I'll give you an example why I said so. The medical director of a hospital is usually a political appointment. This is somebody who has been working as a doctor all his life, writing papers, writing research papers, treating people, and then gets a political appointment to now come and head the hospital, an administrative role. He more or less has to rely on his subordinates, and wherever they go, he will lead. He primarily sees it as, okay, we make money, we service this facility, then we collect subvention from government, and we use to pay salaries. And when there's a shortfall in any of these things, they don't tend to balance out the sensibility of the economics of the business in that matter. So you have a problem in which the hospitals are not properly being run. There's no innovation. There's no development per se. The care of the experience is still the same over the years. And doctors are actually complaining about the administration, who is actually headed by a doctor also. So it's just a domino effect of bad policies on bad policies on bad policies.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for shedding some light on this issue.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we'll come back to you in a bit. We'll just continue with the news now.
All right.
All right. Many people worry about gaining weight when eating later than a particular time. One common suggestion is not to eat after 8 p.m. A researcher, Dr. Ibru Ozbelit, presenting her results at the European Society of Cardiology Congress in Rome, once said, if we eat late at night, the body essentially remains on high alert as during the day rather than relaxing for sleep. Stress hormones are secreted, causing blood pressure not to decrease during sleep, which should normally happen. The doctor from the Dokuz Eylül University in Turkey tracked 721 people diagnosed with high blood pressure with an average age of 53. She found that those who ate within 2 hours of going to bed were 2.8 times more likely to retain high blood pressure overnight. We still have Dr. Folajimi Adebowale in the studio. Thank you for staying with us.
It's a pleasure.
Now, a quick clarification. What's this thing about eating late at night? What's the phobia and the controversy about it?
Now, basically, you know that they say this thing, we are what we eat. You understand, basically. And due to certain reasons, okay, let's start from our genetics, okay? Our forefathers, over the long period of years, were not people that eat late. Once it's sunset, it's time to go to bed. So most of the eating are actually done early in the morning till maybe 6 p.m. Now, some years down the line, we have civilization, and the whole thing changed. The type of food we eat has changed. The time we eat has changed. So therefore, there will be a change in the body structure. So there's a tendency, for one or two reasons, that if you eat late, you will gain weight. And when you gain weight, you're at risk of having hypertension and so many other issues. So it's actually a culture, society challenge. And especially if you live in the city of Lagos, where you may not get home till like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. and thereafter, you are bound. You really cannot help the fact that you will eat late. And, you know, sometimes we look at these things like government and policies, and it's a spiral effect. This is a domino effect when we have poor labor laws. You have poor labor laws. People are spending long hours in the office for little pay. People want to work so much, so hard for little pay. Then you see people eating late. You see this thing.
What's the effect of this? No. What is the negative effect of this? So why is it that people eat so late? You've explained that, but what is the negative effect?
The negative effect is that once you eat late and you gain weight, you most likely be prone to hypertension and some other diseases. People like that, some people actually have psychological disorders that actually they'll prefer to eat at night to sort of calm their stress, you understand, or deal with depression. Do you get my point? So it's not healthy to actually have such an habit.
What's the correlation between high blood pressure and eating late at night?
High blood pressure and eating late at night, it's this. First of all, when you gain weight, you will gain weight from eating late at night because most of those foods are actually stored as fat. They are not metabolized because you are not active. More so, you have stress hormones that help you to even store more, almost like cortisol. actually released more when you don't sleep on time and you keep awake at night. So when you have these things, you will, with cortisol, with the fact that you have elevated cholesterol, that will narrow the blood vessels, that will increase the blood pressure. Cortisol itself enhances an elevated blood pressure also. So you're talking about, you're supposed to be resting, you're not resting, you are more alert, you are more tense. Your vessels actually been narrowed because of the adipose of tissues over it. So there's some several other things, and especially the role of salt also. Salt also plays a key factor in that matter. So salt is central in the control of high blood pressure, and salt is central in the cause of high blood pressure. So when you bring all these factors together, these risk factors, someone who tends to eat late will gain weight, will most likely be hypertensive.
See, I'm getting from what you're saying that it's not advisable to snack or eat too late at night. What would be the appropriate time to have dinner, taking every other factor, especially for those living in a metropolitan city like Lagos? What should be the right time for dinner?
Now, it's one thing for you to say something, it's another thing for what you say, is it practical? The best time is actually like 6 p.m., max 7 p.m. is the best time, but is that practical for most people? So
what's the time frame between when you eat and when you should go to bed? I think that should rather solve the problem. If there is a time frame, we're told not to eat not to eat 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So what's the proper time frame? So people
the 2 hour is usually because of the issue of possibly you don't develop reflux acid issues, okay? You don't have some other issues, but it's really the best time that as early as 6 p.m., 7 p.m., you are done with dinner. By 9 p.m., max p.m., 10 p.m., you are in bed.
So what's your advice to those, especially the working class, that tend to eat late?
When I see people in the clinic and I discuss with them, since I'm a bit on the big side, I tell them, look, we're in the same struggle, so I can relate with what you're trying to do. We live in the same city. You understand? So we try to find out ways in which, okay, if you realize that you will get home late, it's better you make sure that you have a heavy lunch or a normal lunch and have a light dinner. Do you understand? So we shift it that way so that you don't put the bulk of that on your dinner. Try and make sure that, okay, maybe you prepare your food in the morning and you eat it by 3, 4. That'll be the main meal for the day. Then maybe on your way back, you buy fruits or you take something light for dinner. That's what I usually tell people.
Okay, that's for the generality. Do you feel, because heart condition is something that a lot of medical people like you tend to worry and caution people about. Do you think that government is creating enough awareness about heart wellness?
Well, the first rule of government is actually to let people live, to have policies that promote the right quality of life. The quality of life is not that fantastic, and government has a role to play. So if we have a better quality of life, do you get my point? The media primarily has a role to play in that regard. But what if the media is talking about it, but people can't practice it because everybody's just living life, running helter-skelter, spending long hours in traffic, and having basically a crazy way of living. So it's one thing for you to talk about it. It's one thing for you to actually have policies that enhance it. There should be stronger labor laws that favor people. Some countries right now actually tending toward a 4-day work so that we can actually start on Thursday and not on Friday.
That will be the day.
Some people are talking about let's close by 3 p.m. Nobody should stay beyond 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. You understand? And somehow this thing actually enhances productivity for even the workers themselves. Because sometimes you realize that sometime in the office, efficiency is reduced when the time span is expanded. So you need government to actually come up with policies that are pro good quality life. You understand? Then when you have that policies in place, people can naturally people will nobody wants to go home late. Everybody will love going home early.
All right.
So the policies and the way of life should actually be the first thing.
Thank you very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure once again.
We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, the news continues. To stay with us. Papua New Guinea Prime Minister Peter O'Neill announced his resignation on Sunday after weeks of high-level defections from the ruling party. Oni's opponents said on Friday they had mustered enough support in Parliament to oust him over a range of grievances, including a gas deal with France Total, which critics have questioned. Political instability is something of a fixture in a resource-rich but poverty-stricken South Pacific nation, and O'Neill, who had been leader since 2011, had seen off previous attempts to topple him. He handed over leadership to Sir Julius Chan, ABC News reported.
But all good things come to an end, and our duty as a nation and as leaders is to make sure that we work for the interest of our people. And it is important that we maintain a certain level of political stability in the country. And as you can see, the coalition leaders who have been with us over the past 2 years are here with us today. And we have agreed to a change of direction, that the leadership of our government will be now handed over to Sir Julius Chen, who is a veteran leader and one of our founding fathers of our great nation. So with those few words, I want to say that I will be stepping down as Prime Minister in the coming days when I visit the Governor General, to making sure that we pave way for a new government and new leadership of a new government.
And we will just satisfy the Prime Minister that we won't let you down. We will maintain the things that you've started, and we will do more than that. I think if there is a drop in the confidence of the people, we will restore it. We are not just going to be a caretaker government. We're going to do something new.
Afternoon all. We have a special relationship with Papua New Guinea and always will. And I will look forward to working with the new Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea in the same way I've enjoyed such a strong and friendship and relationship with Peter O'Neill. My simple message to Peter O'Neill, and I look forward to passing this on soon personally, is thank you. Thank you on behalf of Australia for your friendship.
We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, the news continues. Stay with us. French police on Saturday released 2 new still images of the man who is the main suspect in Friday's bomb attack in Lyon, in which 13 people were injured after a first appeal for witnesses was issued hours after the explosion. According to French anti-terrorism prosecutor Remy Heitz, the man is thought to have planted the device and was spotted on CCTV footage. He is still on the run, and police investigators have not been able to identify him yet, as he was wearing a face cap. Up next is our business news. MTN Nigeria Communications PLC on Saturday said it was being investigated by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, over the listing of its shares on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. A statement posted on the NSE website, signed by MTN Nigeria Communications Company Secretary, confirmed the investigation. The statement said that the company received a letter on May 23 from EFCC requesting information and documentation related to the listing of its shares on the NSE. The telecom company reiterates that it received all regulatory approvals required to list its shares on the NSE, as publicly confirmed by NSE and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Still ahead of Plus TV Africa News is a roundup on entertainment. Do stay with us. Barcelona's president, Josep Bartomeu, has confirmed the club is working on signing new players as well as selling some players. The Spanish champions saw their 4-year Copa del Rey winning streak come to an end last night as they were beaten 2-1 by Valencia in the final. Dutch midfielder Frenkie de Jong has been signed from Ajax in a deal worth £73 million, while Barcelona are said to be front-runners in signing Matthias de Ligt and Anthony Griezmann. Philippe Coutinho, Samuel Umtiti, Malcolm and Andre Gomes are among the players that have been linked to its exit from Barcelona this summer. And that's it in sports, and wrap things up at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel that is also at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do please join us again. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
Thank you for joining us for another interesting conversation on One on One. My name is Felicity Ezewike. Today on the program, our guest is a retired Nigerian police officer who served as the 18th Inspector General of the Nigerian Police, IGP Solomon Arase. He was appointed IGP in 2015 by then-President Goodluck Jonathan. Before his appointment, Arase was head of the Criminal Intelligence and Investigation Bureau of the Nigerian Police Force. He holds a political science degree from the Ahmadu Bello University, a bachelor's degree in law from the University of Benin, and a master's from the University of Lagos State. The retired IGP is a fellow of the Nigerian Defense Academy and had served in Namibia during the United Nations peacekeeping operation. I want to thank you, sir, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
It's been a while since you retired. How has the experience been for you?
Wonderful. I have my life back. I go to where I want to go to, sleep when I want to sleep.
That must be really refreshing.
I just do all the things I think I have missed in the past 35 years, you know, when I was in service.
Yeah,
so it's been a wonderful time.
But haven't you been bored of being so active and then suddenly...
No, I've had talking engagements within and outside the country. And they are so regular that sometimes I just ask myself if I will not start cutting down, you know, with time. I've never had any dull moments. That has been the truth.
Okay. Happy to know that. I want us to get this conversation off, this particular question off before we proceed. Yeah. Just after your retirement, there were media reports that some exotic cars were allegedly found in your possession. You want to speak to that, please?
The police buy exotic cars. The type of operational vehicles that the police buy, you know, that we usually purchase are usually pickup vehicles. But I am entitled to, you know, some exotic cars, you know, as my position as an Inspector General of Police. Every Inspector General of Police, you retire with the BMW, you know, 7 Series that you retired with, and 3 other cars. And those were the cars that I went away with. And actually, I left the country nearly 3 weeks when I left office. So I was still in the official quarters. So whatever vehicles that were there, they were not supposed to be, to my knowledge. They are usually transport officers attached to the Inspector General's or police office. I think it was just a calculated design by the IG who came and took over from me because of my principal stand in telling him that, in accusing him and giving him queries for unprofessional and unethical conduct while I was under the IG. And he vowed that he was going to carry a campaign of calumny against me. So there was no such thing of having to go with exotic vehicles.
That issue has been cleared. Was there a statement from the Nigerian police to say it was a misunderstanding?
He said it repeatedly and sent people to me to apologize, of what he had done. But you see, the idea is that when you find somebody who does not have the same intellectual and professional competence, like you, trying to step into, the space you have left, you will always expect things like that. So to me, I felt hot when it happened, because after putting in 35 years of, service into the Nigerian police force, I felt that I was going to retire, quietly into my other things I have set out for myself. So it's, I was really hot. But I met with the president and some government officials who said, they thought that what his conduct was very, very unprofessional.
All right, I just had to address that, because always, like, each time the conversation comes up,